I think early in the year he was trying to avoid that mistake that could cost his team, and then he got benched and he got mad. And then he played, you see him scramble, he looks like a bull in a china shop running around. He's a big dude that's athletic, so I think he brings a lot to the table.
Is he less likely to make those mistakes now?
I don't know. I think it's still in him. I think he's done a good job of avoiding it. He has a tendency to hold on to the ball. When he's not sure about a pass, instead of throwing it away, he'll hold it. And then he'll either scramble or he gets sacked. And I think that's a big factor in this game. Michigan State is very, very athletic on defense. And if they take away his primary receiver, if you see him hitch once and he doesn't get rid of the ball, and then he goes another hitch and another hitch, either he's going to scramble and pick up 10 or 15 yards, or he's going to get sacked, or he's going to turn it over. Because he'll throw it into coverage. So it's still in him. He's just got to do a good job of avoiding some poor decisions.
It seems like we're kind of shifted away from, or at least we're starting to shift away from the offenses where, you got to throw it 50 times.
Yeah.
At least here in the Big 12, especially.
Yeah.
With what Baylor is, great running the ball.
Yeah.
OU as well.
Yep.
Do you think that it is starting to tip back that way? If you better be a run first.
I don't think we can generalize its run or its pass. From what I witness when I watch all these games, it's the teams that have the ability to do both. Like Baylor's a team that can do both. Like if you're going to say, hey, we're not going to give up the big play against Baylor, they're going to run for 300 yards. And if they're going to load up and stop a Shock Linwood or Johnson last night, then they're going to throw because they get one-on-one opportunities. The beauty of some of these offenses is by spreading you out, they're dictating to you, okay, you've got to tip your hand on what you're going to do. We have all these receivers all over the field. Show us where you're going to align, and we're going to go in the other direction. Because you can't dress 12 on defense. So you can only show that you're going to load up against the run, or that you're going to stop the pass. And wherever you go, I'm going to go the other direction. So that's what makes this spread offense era that we're in so difficult to defend.
Kirk, Mark Collins said that you were one of the people. He mentioned Nick Saban, but he also called you before he hired Mark D'Antoni. Do you remember that? What did you say about Mark at that time?
I get calls from athletic directors quite often, and that was a call where he brought him up to me and among some of the other candidates. I can't remember who they were at this time, but being in Columbus at the time with Mark, I just was really, really impressed with the way he paid attention to detail. He was just such a guy that got the most out of his defense, and he's serious. He had success in Cincinnati, because that was the one thing when you're a great coordinator, how would you do as a head coach? He went to Cincinnati, did a heck of a job there, and being able to build that program up. And so when it came time to be able to come into East Lansing, I thought, who better than him with his background in the Big Ten region and showing that he can win as a head coach? He's a perfect fit, and he pays attention to detail. He's a disciplinarian, and in my opinion, they've needed that forever at Michigan State. And I think he came in there and he's changed the culture around completely. What year was that where they had all those players that got into trouble?
2009.
Yeah, it was almost like that was a turning point because of how it happened, but how he dealt with it, I think, was a turning point for the program, because I don't remember how many players were suspended, you probably know, but it seemed like it was 12, 13, 14 guys didn't play in their bowl game, and to me that was really impressive that he said, I don't care who you are, what the rules are, if you break our rules, you're going to pay the consequences, and that was new. And so I think he's gotten guys to buy in, and now all of a sudden, I don't think people still nationally respect and realize what Michigan State has accomplished. I really don't. I mean, in my mind, they've become a top 5 program, not a top 10 program. And in these last 3 years, they're a top 5 program. You look at some of the teams that they've matched up with, you look at who they have beaten and where they've beaten them. And so I think it's amazing. They still play with a chip on their shoulder. They still play an underdog role. And I'm like, how? I mean, you're one of the best teams in the country, but somehow, some way, they're still able to play that nobody respects us card.
How does a team with their resume, Big Ten champs, beat Ohio State at home, and they're a 10-point underdog?
I was just saying, I don't really understand the underdog thing. I've got a lot of respect. Nobody's seen Alabama up close more than myself as far as analyzing and watching and calling a lot of their games, so I have a real feel for who they are and the program that they are. And there's a real determination on that team. Nick just talked about that. When they lost to Ohio State, this team losing to Ole Miss, I think, added to their intensity. And yet here comes Michigan State kind of back in that familiar role where despite all the wins that they've had, they're still a big underdog. I don't know if it's because of the way they beat Ohio State in the last play of the game and the way they beat Michigan in the last play of the game. The bottom line is they've won games. The other thing is they're healthy. They're a different team right now these last 4 games than they were maybe the other 8 or 9 games. And so I think there's a confidence, there's a belief, and they're in a familiar role. I don't think they'd want to be favorite by 10. I think they like to be the underdog by 10 points because they're going to come in and play with an attitude.
You mentioned that intensity. What have you seen from Alabama, just from an attitude this week?
The defensive line and Reggie Ragland, I think, are as impressive of a group when it comes to the intangibles of drive. I've been at practice the last 2 days for the entire practice, and it reminds me of when they had guys like Roe McClain who got them zeroed in on when a team is self-policed by the players, and it's not always the coach's voice. Think about that. I mean, the coaches are always, it's like a parent always telling their kids what to do, but all of a sudden the older brother or the older sister starts to tell the younger siblings what they need to do. It's like, whoa, the parents really are like, thank you, that helps. That's what Alabama has. Alabama's players are making sure that the rest of the team is listening to what the message is from the coaches, and that's when you have a special team that's very motivated, and we'll see. I mean, it's kind of like a collision because you've got one team that's this force in Alabama that's been a force since '09, and you got Michigan State who wouldn't want it any other way of being an underdog. And it's not like they're going to just kind of come into the middle of the round at round 1 and just kind of touch gloves and jab, and they're going to come in and just start swinging hard. And as fans, I think we're the winners because it's going to be a great game to watch.
Kirk, how good does Connor Cook need to be Thursday night for Michigan State to win?
I think he needs to play one of his best games that he's played in his career. Because I think it's going to be tough to run the ball against that front early. I think Michigan State, if they're going to have success, they're going to have to throw to set up the run. I don't think they can run to set up the throw. And so it puts a lot on Connor Cook. I think it puts even more on the receivers. They really struggled as a group to get separation against Iowa. And now you come into this game and you wonder, against a better secondary, can Aaron Burbridge and company, can they do a good job of separating from press? They're going to get a ton of press coverage, a lot of man-to-man. I just wonder, can they give Connor Cook a chance? Because with this defense, what they do is they confuse you with who's coming. And so the line's got to be on the same page. Connor Cook's going to have about 2.5 seconds to get the ball out of his hands. So he's got to make quick decisions, but his receivers are going to have to be able to win on one-on-one coverage.
Thanks, Kirk.
Sure.
Team